Yesterday for president, but the senator announced he has raised more than $4 million in the first 12 hours of his campaign. That's extraordinary. So what do millennials think about Bernie and the direction of the Democratic Party? Let's talk to a panel of millennials across the political spectrum. Screen left right here, we've got Nathan Rubin. He is the founder of Millennial Politics. Malia Fisher is the founder of We Are Defiant. Joseph Pinion is Outreach Chair for New York State Young Republicans and Chair for the Conservative Color Coalition. And Allison Lee Pillinger Choi is author of Bleeding Heart Conservatives. Good to have all of you.
Thanks.
All right, Nathan, let's start with you. He's a democratic socialist. Isn't it a problem being a socialist in the United States running for president?
Well, I think it's an interesting question, and to be perfectly honest, I think the word socialism is losing its edge, particularly among millennials. With that said, when you look at a country of 300 million, 330 million people,
right,
there are only about 50,000 registered democratic socialists. So while the term is losing its edge, the increase in registration and affiliation with that actual part of the party isn't skyrocketing, but people like what Bernie Sanders has to say.
Well, keep in mind, he's not even a Democrat. He's an independent who caucuses with the Democrats. Malia, you think this is a good idea. You like the fact that he was very popular 4 years ago, and now a lot of his ideas, everybody else is trying to out-Bernie Bernie.
Absolutely. There are a lot of millennials and Gen Z that are going to be incredibly excited about Bernie's run for president this cycle.
Now, why is it? Is it because he stands for free everything?
No, it's because we are facing some insurmountable challenges as a generation. We are going to be worse off than our parents. We are facing crushing debt. We are facing stagnant wages. We are facing a society that can't even afford to pay for family medical leave, childcare, and these are issues that Bernie actually has broad solutions to address.
But his solutions are expensive. Where does the money come from?
I think that the money comes from taxing wealthy Americans who can afford to pay more to help everyone in our society and generations to come.
What's that number?
That number is
a really rich person should pay how much?
I think that if we went up to a 70% tax, we would see a lot more ability for our generation to sustain jobs and our families down the line.
Okay, Joseph, back when taxes in the United States, the highest marginal rates were like 70, 80, 90%, there were a million loopholes, and nobody actually paid that. Are the Bernie ideas sustainable because somebody would wind up paying for them? Or is it just a great idea on the campaign trail?
Well, look, I think the reality is that socialism has literally never worked in the history of the world. You could have a tax rate go up to 100%. It still wouldn't pay for even a pittance of the ideas being proposed. I think the reality is that I think Bernie Sanders is going to have a lot of difficulty. Last cycle, he got to be the candidate who was not Hillary Clinton. Now everybody is not Hillary Clinton, and I think that the candidate who is Mr. 4-minute abs of liberal politics is going to find himself in the field where everyone is saying get abs today and work out tomorrow.
Well, you know, Allison, when you look at the field of Democrats right now, you've got, for instance, you've got Amy Klobuchar and Sherrod Brown. They say, you know, health care for all would be a great idea, but, you know, we can't do it all at once. It would have to be incremental. And then you've got Howard Schultz, the billionaire from Starbucks. He says, you know, Green New Deal, not realistic, immoral. Health care for all doesn't make sense. So while a lot of people are thinking, okay, that's a great idea, there are people in his own party, adopted party if he becomes a Democrat again, who are saying, look, the Bernie stuff just won't work.
Yeah, absolutely. Even Kamala Harris, who champions getting rid of private insurance companies, won't say she is a democratic socialist. She understands that there's a fine line. And, you know, I can't fully blame the millennials who think that they support socialism. They came into adulthood at a time in the aftermath of the financial crisis, and I really do blame the failed education system, lack of civic education, that is having them believe that this is a better way forward.
Okay, real quickly, let's take a look at a poll. The view of millennials on socialism. About a third of millennials do like it. Unfavorable, it looks like about 46% say they don't like it, and then you've got the other answers right there as well. Lightning round, let's go one at a time. At this point, we're, a little under 10 so far have declared they're interested in running on the Democratic side. Who is the biggest challenge for the president, Nathan?
I think right now it's a little early to say, but there are three.
You have to pick one.
There are three people that I would say are kind of that top-tier candidate. Bernie Sanders, he raised $4 million overnight from 140,000 individual donors. Kamala Harris, I think, is another top-tier candidate. And Elizabeth Warren. They're all occupying that progressive wing.
Malia?
I think I probably agree with Nathan across the board, and I'll say that it's very exciting that all of our candidates have endorsed the Green New Deal, which is an incredibly popular policy with millennials by 30 points.
Okay, Joseph?
I think if there's one candidate that should keep the president up at night, it's probably Amy Klobuchar. I think that she resonates with the largest swath of Americans. And I think realistically, if you end up picking a Bernie Sanders, I think the only thing that is for certain is that President Trump might not just win, he'll probably win the actual popular vote.
And you like Amy Klobuchar because she is a moderate, but during a primary, generally you got to be more extreme.
Well, I think the reality is, to me, I'm a Republican, so I think they're all probably failed ideas. But I think the hard truth is that, Amy Klobuchar probably speaks more in step with the vast swath of Americans.
Okay, and finally, Allison?
I'm going to go for the wild card. Howard Schultz, I think, would be keeping Donald Trump up at night.
A chicken in every pot and a large latte in every kitchen. Maybe not. All right, great discussion, Nathan and Malia. Joseph, Allison, thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve.
All right. It is now 19 minutes before, 21 minutes
21.
before the top of the hour. Sorry about that. It's digital, Jillian.
Yeah, I know. It's very difficult to tell the time sometimes. All right. Good morning to you, Steve. Good morning to you at home. And today, the NYPD detective shot and killed by friendly fire will be laid to rest. An NYPD flag seen draped over Brian Simonson's casket as an honor guard.
East and D.C. It's snowing right now in D.C. They have completely shut that city down because it is just a mess when it starts to snow. Then we have the potential for flooding, unfortunately, across the Mid-South, the Deep South. We have another winter storm moving into the west and winter weather advisories, winter storm warnings as far south as Tucson, Arizona. So watching this system move up, we're going to get some snow across the New York City area later on today, and then we're going to see that transition. So not a blockbuster storm, but certainly going to mess up a little bit of travel. Anybody traveling today? Anybody travel? Yes? You're going to try. Well, if you don't, you got to come back to Fox and Friends tomorrow. All right. Say hi to Steve Ainsley and Brian.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Safe in South Carolina.
Get the shovel.
Yep, put the chains on your tires. Just snap them on.
We've heard that before.
18 minutes.
Snap them on?
Yeah, that's it. Snap them on. Some S-hooks. 18 minutes before the top of the hour. The images will make you sick. Vandals damaging a woman.
In Oregon, if a new bill is passed, supporters say 16-year-olds are capable of making informed decisions. Voters could decide on the proposal in 2020. Next, $300 million. That's how much baseball player Manny Machado will make over the next 10 years. The San Diego Padres signing the shortstop to the biggest free agent contract in history. Let's see if Bryce Harper goes to the Phillies, TBD. And finally, 801 miles per hour. That was the top speed of a Virgin Atlantic flight from LA to London thanks to a jet stream. Dreamliners typically fly at 561 miles per hour. Steve.
Got a push from Mother Nature. All right, Jillian, thank you. Meanwhile, look at these images. A memorial to fallen border agents cruelly defaced. The National Border Patrol Museum near El Paso vandalized after this protest over the weekend.
Actually, a lot of these Border Patrol agents are murderers. That's what they are. They have murdered families. They have murdered youth. They have slashed any humanitarian aid that's given to them at the border like water.
We need to push back in every way we can.
Border Patrol agent Hector Garza is vice president of the National Border Patrol Council. He joins us with a reaction this morning from Austin. Hector, when you watch those images of those people inside the museum, what goes through your head?
Well, it's just very disappointing and very disgusting that these people would vandalize the museum that honors Border Patrol agents and honors those agents that have made the ultimate sacrifice in protecting their nation. I wish these people would hold the drug cartels accountable for putting all these people at risk and for those aliens that die while they're coming across the border. But again, these are the results of when people vilify the work of the U.S. Border Patrol and when they vilify law enforcement in general.
Hector, how did they get inside and have a whole protest inside the museum, and how were they able to deface some of the pictures and some of the items in the museum?
So this museum has been in the El Paso community since 1985. It's a public museum where people are welcomed. Schools out there in El Paso will actually go out to this museum so the students can learn the history of the U.S. Border Patrol. And they had access to this museum, and instead of honoring our agents, they vandalized the museum, and it's very, very unfortunate.
Well, you got their photos. I mean, we got the video.
Patrol agents are part of the border communities. Many of our Border Patrol agents were born and raised in border communities like El Paso. Right. Why are they disrespecting their own community members?
Hector, clearly the museum was a target where these people went in and had this protest. Do you, as a Border Patrol representative, feel like a target as well?
Well, we've been targeted by members of Congress. We've been targeted by the fake news media, and that is very unfortunate. That needs to stop. Our Border Patrol agents do an amazing job day in and day out, rescuing people that are left behind by human smugglers, rescuing people that are victims of sex trafficking and human trafficking. This is definitely a show of disrespect for law and order.
So is it time to take down the wall, the fence, because it's immoral? Is the president making up a crisis?
This is definitely not a crisis. We see that it's a humanitarian crisis on the border. We see people being victimized by the cartels and by human smugglers, and it needs to stop. We need to make sure that our members of Congress get serious about this and make sure that they fund border security and that they recognize that there is an emergency on the border.
Has the wall in El Paso made you safer, and are you in support of a wall?
Of course, we've been advocating for physical barriers.
In the end, we're going to be very successful with the lawsuit. I was put here for security. We need strong borders.
Those people who want the wall are not patriots.
Mad Maxine wouldn't know patriotism if it came up in Bitter Square on the behind.
Mr. Nick Sandman's family has sued the Washington Post. They want $250 million for what they did.
A New Jersey police officer left the pregnant waitress in tears when she realized that he gave her $100 in tips.
It meant a lot to me. You hear all those bad things about cops, so when you get something good, it was really a blessing.
The 7-year-old boy is called Little Hitler for raising money for the border wall.
Are you going to stop selling?
I'm not going to stop or stand until the wall is built.
Children dancing was really cute, right?
So far, so good.
Children dancing.
Oh, yeah, what's going to happen in the final hour? Stay tuned, because it starts right now.
That's right. Also in the news, 2020 Democratic hopefuls slamming President Trump's national emergency on our southern border.
All right, the attacks are mounting as the president promises to prevail over all the lawsuits against his declaration.
All right, Washington, D.C. is officially shut down. The federal government has, but somehow Kevin Corke was able to make it to work this morning.
Piece of cake.
It was a piece of cake. Kevin, good morning.
Guys, good to be with you. Listen, I live about 1.5 miles from the White House, so I guess I could walk if I wanted to, but I actually have an SUV, and I rarely drive it. But a day like today, I was able to get out there and just sort of mix it up in the snow just a bit. We're talking 2020 politics, and nicknames are back, guys, and so are some of the familiar faces from the 2016 campaign. President tweeting about one of them just moments ago. Let me take it to his favorite social media platform. He said this: Crazy Bernie has just entered the race. I wish him well. Sanders, as you know, joining an already crowded and soon to be even more crowded field of Democrats eager to take on the president in 2020, ready to battle the incumbent on his policies from the economy to the border wall.
We don't need a multi-billion-dollar wall. That wall ain't gonna stop them.
I just want to note that a lot of these people are indigenous to this land, and that border is cutting them off.
That's why the wall is so absurd and hurtful.
All this thing about seeking asylum. Now, if he doesn't want people coming to the border, why would you eliminate that possibility for your case to be adjudicated in country? It's about xenophobia.
Xenophobia or perhaps national security, depending on your perspective. So as the 2020 race heats up, the president's poll numbers, guys, are apparently also heating up, surging 7 points from January to 44%, according to the latest Gallup survey. And do keep this in mind, according to some other surveys, he's actually north of 50%. Things on the plus side for the president right now. Guys, back to you.
Yeah, that's incredible, Kevin. The stark difference between what Democrats want and they perceive and the president. And not only do Democrats not see an emergency, they think it's totally a fallacy.
At least right now they do. They didn't, you know, a few years ago. Thanks so much, Kevin.
And it's good to know his SUV is back in. Especially if you don't start it every day.
There you go. All right. Meanwhile, let's talk a little bit about this. There in Washington, D.C., the Washington Post received word yesterday that the famous attorney from Atlanta, Lynn Wood, who is representing Nick Sandmann, the young man right there from Covington High School, he is suing the Washington Post for $250 million for defamation. The lawsuit claims that the Washington Post targeted and bullied Nick because he was the white Catholic student wearing the MAGA hat on that field trip on January the 18th. Of course, the original story was that he and the young men from the school were mocking the Native American. Then, as more video came out, it became abundantly clear that initial story, all wrong.
Suing for $250 million, because that's how much Jeff Bezos, the richest person, it says in the lawsuit, paid for the Post in cash in 2013. The president tweeting about it, saying, Covington student suing WAPO, Washington Post, go get them, Nick, fake news.
Meanwhile, the Washington Post put out a statement regarding this, reviewing a copy of the lawsuit, and we plan to mount a vigorous defense. Some of the things that they detail in the lawsuit, the Sandmann case says the Post proved itself to be a loud and aggressive bully with a bully pulpit. They say in this country our society is dedicated to the protection of children, regardless of the color of their skin, their religious beliefs, or the cap they wear. But the Post did not care about protecting Nicholas. To the contrary, the Post raced with a reckless disregard of the fact and truth, because in this day and time there's a premium for being the first and the loudest media bully. Nonetheless, they want $250 million because of the rush to judgment.
All right, and the anti-Trump movement continues. Andy McCabe's got a book out. You would think that a guy who's Mr. Law and Order would wait for an investigation to finish before he went out with his view of an investigation into the President of the United States and the reasons behind it. One theme is pretty clear. Anything that he does wrong, he doesn't really remember. When Peter Strzok's name comes up and Lisa Page comes up and their text messages are empirical evidence of their hatred towards the president while they lead an investigation, he says they're good people, made bad decisions, but they don't think the biases leaked into any of their investigation. Here's a little of his book tour as he continues to attack the president and who got him elected and what he might be, I guess, subservient to.
You still believe the president could be a Russian asset?
I think it's possible. I think that's why we started our investigation.
Is there anything in the last 2 years that makes you less suspicious of the president?
No. Did I answer too quickly?
No.
Okay.
So now, keep in mind, he's out promoting this book, but he got fired from the Department of Justice because of he had leaked some information to the Wall Street Journal. That is to say, yesterday, and Ainsley brought this up earlier. Meghan McCain had him on the hot chair and actually had him, grilled him a little bit.
Yeah, she didn't hold back. Watch this.
I would like you to say right here on national TV that you were not a source for the New York Times, you were never a source for the New York Times or any other publication, considering that's what you're accused of lying about. Basically, were you ever a leaker to the New York Times?
Absolutely not. No, not in any time ever.
Then why did James Comey deny the claim that he approved your leaks to the press?
I don't know why Jim Comey doesn't remember the conversations that we had in the same way that I do.
Really, he's so understanding with James Comey, not understanding things the way he does. But he's not understanding of the president having a different perception of their interactions. He's also not understanding the Inspector General, who no one really said had a bias, who was hired by President Obama to investigate what took place and is about to come up with a further investigation. This Michael Horowitz, he says, well, the Inspector General who said you lied 3 times and recommended you get fired, a criminal referral, where you could still end up in a criminal court. He doesn't understand. He says, well, he might have been pressured by the Attorney General because the president wanted him to be. No one I know has ever said the Inspector General's sanctity and honesty was in question. But that's what his answer is.
Well, it's interesting how he goes on this media blitz trying to sell books, and the liberal media loves this story because he doesn't like the president. He was trying to oust the president and using the 25th Amendment, allegedly. And then Meghan McCain says that to him and questions him. Probably the only one, maybe a few people have questioned him to his face. And all over social media, people were saying kudos to you, Meghan McCain, for asking him the tough questions.
Well, the one thing about the fact that he has revealed that apparently there were these chats between him and Rod Rosenstein and others regarding using the 25th Amendment to get rid of the President of the United States, you would think that the administration would love that, because it continues the narrative that is out there, that there's a deep state out there at the highest reaches of government that are working against the president. And then when you see Andy McCabe on television saying, yeah, I had this conversation, we're trying to figure out how to do it, the president and his team say, see? That's exactly what we've been talking about for the last 2 years. There is a deep state, and he is proving it.
He has not had a good answer to the question of why his wife got $680,000 from the Hillary Clinton campaign. They never met, was his answer for a state Senate race. It's pretty substantial. We also don't know why $140 million goes to the Clinton Foundation, but Hillary Clinton had from Russia, but Hillary Clinton didn't raise up any eyebrows without any of her possibly being compromised by that country. Yeah. And we also don't know about an investigation that happened July 5th, where Hillary Clinton was questioned but not under oath, with nobody taping it at all. But no one ever asked these questions to him. And the dossier, which was the foundation of all of it, barely comes up in any of this cross-examination.
Well, he's on a book tour. If you'd like to stop by the couch, we got a space right here.
All right, let's hand it over to Jillian, who has some headlines for us. Hey, Jillian.
Good morning, and the plot continues to thicken in Chicago, so let's get you caught up on the latest, the story we've been following. Empire actor Jussie Smollett could soon be handed an arrest warrant. It's the latest twist in the investigation into an alleged hate crime against him. The actor has not responded to a request by Chicago police for a follow-up interview. His lawyers say this is not a hoax. We will have a live report from Chicago in just a few minutes as the FBI looks into a piece of hate mail sent to Smollett before the attack. Lots to unravel still. The acting president of Venezuela says he's confident U.S. aid will reach the people who need it. In an exclusive interview, Juan Guaido tells Fox Business he plans to deliver stockpiles of medicine, food, and other supplies into the country this weekend. So far, disputed President Nicolas Maduro has blocked the aid. President Trump will nominate Jeff Rosen as his next Deputy Attorney General. Rosen is currently the Deputy Transportation Secretary. He previously served as General Counsel for the department and was a partner at a Chicago-based law firm with Attorney General William Barr. Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein is expected to step down next month. In a viral campaign moment, Democratic presidential candidate Kirsten Gillibrand gets interrupted by someone who just wants some ranch dressing.
And the grassroots care about. Sorry, I'm just trying to get some ranch. Go ahead.
The Iowa college student said she had no interest in talking politics during Gillibrand's stop in the Hawkeye State, adding that she goes to the rest.
Science has proven since the very beginning that a heartbeat is the beginning of life. And it would say that when that child begins to live through the detection of that heartbeat, sometime between 6 and 9 weeks, that you can't destroy that life. You can't take that life in the womb. So it would hold the doctor responsible through the licensure procedure if the doctor disobeyed that, if the doctor did not in writing notify the patient that that child had a heartbeat, and that other than the life of the mother, the abortion at that point would be prohibited in Mississippi.
Phil, what do you make of these other states, and famously now the Commonwealth of Virginia? They were proposing essentially a day of birth abortion for that to be legal. You've got very late-term abortion in a number of states, including New York State, where I'm sitting, and New Jersey, where I live. What are these lawmakers trying to do?
I think what they're trying to do is what many of the Democrats want to do. They want to grow the culture of death, if you will. They want to be able to say that we can take the life of a child at any time, moments before the birth of that child. Even as we heard some elected officials talk about after that child was born, making it comfortable and then taking their lives. So I think this has shocked the senses of this nation. It has shown a light on exactly what the end game would be to be able to have infanticide, if you will, across this nation upon just the demand of someone that wants to take the life of a child. And we think that this, in their strange way, they are going to help our movement by shocking people into realizing just how horrific this movement has become, taking the life of a child moments before it's born, viability, having a heartbeat. It is truly shocking, and we're going to try to stop it here in Mississippi and other states around the nation. If you look at Ohio, Governor DeWine has said he will sign that bill at Governor Case's veto. Florida, Tennessee, Kentucky, the movement is spreading, and we're very proud to help begin it here in the state of Mississippi.
Well, it's not just in Mississippi, though, Governor. You look at the national polls, a majority of Americans are squarely against very late-term abortion. Women should have a right to an abortion, but it should be earlier than later.
Exactly. When you ask, particularly millennials, but all across the nation, a majority of Americans say absolutely not, that this late-term abortion is something that they are against, something that their elected officials should be against. And I think science is on our side here. So the sonograms that have been developed over the last several years clearly show the development of that fetus far beyond anything we could imagine at very early ages. This is a human being.
Yeah.
They have rights that are bestowed upon them. Here we talk about rights of people that are not even citizens of this United States. We want to be able to give them every right that is afforded in a citizen of the United States. But that child within the womb, we're going to take all their rights to live away.
Well, I know there in Mississippi you're about to pass the heartbeat bill out of both houses, and you will sign it, Governor.
CP Branch in Garland, Texas, writes in a new op-ed, quote, a painful reminder that the modern Democratic Party does not want us to get woke. They want us to stay broke. Reverend C.L. Bryant is a senior fellow at Freedom Works and joins us now. C.L., in what respect do you think that this group wants us to remain broke? Why? Because they were so into spending?
Yes, indeed. In fact, that has been the design that progressive liberals have had on a certain community and this country for the last 60 years. They don't want any types of changes as far as their voting bloc is concerned. And they're scared to death now that there's an awakening going on in the minority community. And the identity politics, which has been the foundation of racism in this country since the end of slavery, is the tool that they are using to maintain control over that voting bloc.
Why is that message? Why is it dangerous for the Democrats, for the people who go to the polls and think it's a good message? What do you say to them?
The good news about the message that the progressive liberals are placing in the American field right now, in the population of America, is that identity politics and progressivism, socialism, will implode upon itself. And before our very eyes, before our American eyes, right, we are seeing how it is imploding. And so I certainly hope that America continues to watch them make fools of themselves.
Well, I mean, they definitely take the black vote for granted. I don't think anyone doubts that. They also say, well, give you free health care, give you free preschool, give you free college. Why wouldn't you vote for that? And by the way, those successful rich people are cheating, and they don't want to pay their fair share. In fact, the term is freeloaders. But look at the stats. The President of the United States, since he took over, some say coincidence, I doubt it. A lot of his policies are pretty dramatic. You have low minority unemployment. You have more back to work, less food stamps. And when he cracks down on illegal immigration, he's actually helping the working class more than anybody else.
In the midst of economic prosperity, and you've named point by point the things that this president has done in less than 2 years, we see 300,000 jobs added just last month. We see the lowest unemployment rate in this country. We're in the midst of prosperity, and Americans are beginning to be very tired of being victimized by ideas that we are not a great country and that we are a country of losers. This is the message that progressive liberalism does in fact put forth. Freedom Works, our organization, we have a mission in order to educate and build the largest grassroots organization in the nation. And that is to let people know that American freedom is something that is given to us as an endowment in our founding documents. And Americans, we should take back the opportunity to pursue our lives, our liberty, and our happiness. Socialism, democratic socialism, or any otherwise, will definitely rob the American people of that great gift that God has given to us.
Reverend, have you always felt like this? And if not, when was the turning point for you?
The turning point for me was back in 1989 when I was president of the NAACP in Garland, Texas. I was asked to speak at a pro-choice rally. By then, a directive came down by Dr. Benjamin Hooks, the former executive director of the NAACP, God rest his soul. But I could not do it because of my core value beliefs. I noticed that my star that was rising rapidly in the organization abruptly began to set. And I said to my wife, Jane, you know, they don't just want to control the agenda. They want to control me and use me as a tool to control these people. And so, with that epiphany, I began a journey toward conservatism, and I began a journey toward where we are today.
And you know, if your theory is correct, that could be why almost every candidate goes out of their way to call the president a racist, a xenophobe, a sexist.
And those people who want the wall are not patriots. They're not people who love this country. They're not people who stand up for what's right.
Okay, so there on President's Day, you've got Maxine Waters, Congresswoman from Southern California, taking a shot at the president, of course, her state as well, suing the federal government to stop the president from using his emergency powers to build the wall.
Yeah, saying if you voted for the president, you would not
Democratic
support building this wall. The majority of people probably voted for the president for that very reason.
Even though the 600 miles of wall built, Barack Obama did 133. The president's starting on 22 and should be over 100 when some of this money begins being spent. Meanwhile, it's amazing how many small stories of Donald Trump supporters end up in the news.
Yeah, there's a little boy in Austin, Texas. His name is Benton Stevens, and he set up, look at this, he set up a hot chocolate stand, and all the proceeds are going to pay for the wall. $2 for a cup of hot chocolate, and then marshmallows are going to cost you a little extra, right?
Well, the Nancy Pelosi marshmallow is 50 cents, but you can have the Beto O'Rourke marshmallow for free.
The little ones?
Yeah. His mother, Jennifer, says, I think it's important that our kids know what's going on in the world, where we stand, what we believe in. His parents are members of the RNC, and at the dinner table, there's a lot of conversation about what's going on in the world, including the president's wall. Here is this little of 7-year-old Benton making the case, buy my hot chocolate, and I'm going to put the money toward the wall.
Doing the hot chocolate stand to help Trump make the wall.
You've had a lot of supporters online and then some that kind of were against you. Are you going to stop selling your doing the stand deal, or?
I'm not going to stop the stand until the wall is built.
Well, he doesn't care what they say about him. He's gotten some nasty comments.
Yeah.
One person called him Little Hitler.
And here's what you're saying. You're not saying that at all. Ed says this. It seems the left, who screams, stop bullying, don't even tolerate a little boy who disagrees with them.
Don tweeted, at least he's learning how to create a business. That's more than some kids do.
Mary says the 7-year-old is getting more done than the swamp politicians are.
Right. Jillian writes, enough of this little kid tossed to me.
Well, I will tell you this. So far, Jillian, he's raised $5,000, and he would like to deliver the money either in person to the president or somehow get it.
I love that
Ryan, I didn't think you'd be sharing that email that I wrote you.
It was right there in front of us.
Can you believe we've gotten to this point? Everyone's so offended by the 7-year-old selling hot chocolate.
Everyone's offended by everything nowadays. Like right now, I'm offending someone. Somehow.
No way. It's not possible.
It is possible. Okay, let's get you caught up on your news, starting with this. President Trump wants California to give back billions from its failed bullet train project. But Democrat Governor Gavin Newsom calls the threat political retribution for its lawsuit over the emergency declaration. And lynching. Burberry's CEO says he is deeply sorry for the distress the shirt caused. You can see it there. It has been removed from the fashion line. A top housing and urban development official learns what it's like to live in public housing. Firefighters working to free Lynn Patton and several others stuck inside an elevator after someone accidentally pressed the emergency button. It took nearly 15 minutes to get the doors open. Patton describes the incident as something that's not unfamiliar. She's spending 4 weeks in different housing complexes around New York City. I've been stuck in an elevator. It's not fun.
But she's doing a great thing. I mean, to do that and to sit in this horrible housing situation to see for herself. Evidently, she took aerobics with everybody. She ordered pizza for everybody. She looks up and the roofs are all leaking. So if you want to get something fixed, see it firsthand.
Well, and she's 2 weeks into her 1-month project. So far, not so good.
How long were you stuck?
About 10, 15 minutes. But still, it's not fun.
I was stuck in
That
this
panic.
building in an elevator for 15 minutes.
Remember the housekeeper in New York was stuck there all weekend?
For 3 days.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Not going to sue her.
By the way, if you're going to be stuck in any elevator, ours are the best. They have TVs.
That's true.
It all
At least
depends
you're
on what
entertained.
channel. We have several different channels.
Right. Well, you don't like the business channel?
Take your cell
No,
phone.
you got the business channel, you got Fox News, and then you've also got Fox News Extra.
Right, yeah.
If you go into an elevator, make sure you have your phone.
And you know, there's one other channel we have where it is all concerts from Fox and Friends.
Right.
What we need, Janice Dean, is we need a channel just of weather and talking weather.
That's a great idea.
Take a look at Capitol Hill. It's almost a whiteout in Washington, and the federal government not in business today.
Smart. We don't need anybody on the roads getting into accidents in Washington, D.C. You know what? Hi, what's your name? Where are you from?
Rebecca.
Where are you from?
Atlanta.
And so, have you ever seen snow in New York City?
No.
Oh my goodness, you're about to see some snow in New York City. Does your dad watch Fox and Friends?
Yes.
Excellent answer. Let's take a look at the map, shall we? Thank you for coming this morning. Let's take a look. It is 28 right now in New York. It's cold, so if some of that moisture gets up into our neighborhood, we're going to be dealing with that snow. Taking a look at the snow impact across
Monday or Tuesday, not responding to the request for a follow-up interview. Also on Tuesday, Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx recused herself from this case. A statement says she might personally know some of the witnesses. And police also tell Fox News they investigated a tip yesterday that the Osundairo brothers were seen inside the high-rise the night of the attack with Smollett, but they ruled that tip unfounded. Brian, Ainsley, and Steve.
All right, Matt, thank you very much. Here to weigh in, radio talk show host Larry Elder joins us today from L.A. Larry, there was quite a rush to judgment on this particular case. It turned out not to be the case.
I'll say, and my reaction is, isn't this good news that this didn't happen? I was interested in the reaction of a People TV host who said, I was hoping and praying that this day would never come, meaning the day would never come that we found out that Jussie Smollett had pulled a hoax. She would prefer to believe that in the streets of Chicago you have Trump supporting goons wearing mega caps, patrolling the streets at night with bleach and with nooses looking for black and gay Trump bashers to beat up, to whitewash, and to lynch. That would be a better reality for her than to think that this actor just lied. That blows my mind.
Hey, Larry, do you see a big picture here when all these other presidential candidates are calling the president a racist, a sexist, a xenophobe, and then you have this, the Covington backlash? There seems a desperation to make this president seem like a white supremacist.
Well, that's the whole point behind it. That's why it had legs, because it advanced the narrative. The narrative is that Trump is a racist. His supporters are racist. Not only are his supporters racist, but they're also violent racists. So it served that purpose. It also served the purpose of racism remains a major problem in America, which is a mantra of the Democratic Party and of the left. It's also nonsense. Back in 1997, both Time and CNN did a joint poll. They asked black teens and white teens the following question. Do you believe that racism is a major problem in America? Not too surprisingly, both white teens and black teens said yes. Interestingly, more white teens said yes than black teens did. But then the poll asked this question, and this is again 1997, before we had back-to-back black attorneys general, before we had back-to-back black secretaries of state, before we had Obama in office. They asked this question. Is racism a minor problem, a major problem, or no problem in your own daily lives? 89% of black teens said minor or no problem in my own daily life. Again, that was 22 years ago. So my suspicion is that racism is a lot less now than it was back in 1997, and it wasn't a big problem for teens back then. It is a lie. And so this whole Jussie